You've heard people say different strokes for different folks. Well, does that apply to grief and bereavement as well in different cultural communities? That's our question that we'll be addressing today in Austin Faith Dialogue. Stay with us, won't you?
Austin Faith Dialogue, at the crossroads of religion and life. A series highlighting the cultural and social interactions between the worshiping and religious communities in and around the capital city. Austin Faith Dialogue is brought to you by the Austin Metropolitan Ministries in cooperation with KXAN. Join us now in Austin Faith Dialogue.
I'm Chuck Meyer. Welcome again to Austin Faith Dialogue, a program of Austin Metropolitan Ministries. Our guest today is A. Ray Franklin, who runs a kind of a unique bereavement group in town. And we'd like to talk a little bit about that. But first, Ray, if you'd say a little bit about yourself, where you're from. Are you from Austin?
Yes, I'm from Austin.
You grew up here?
Grew up here.
A rare breed, my goodness.
And in Irving.
And in Irving.
And in Irving, yes.
Okay.
But mostly in Austin.
Mostly in Austin. You're still here.
Still here.
That's
Still
great.
Here. Yeah.
Well, how did you get involved in Hospice Austin? You do a bereavement group for them?
Yes. It began when I was working at King T's Mortuary. And I met Janet Makers. And that was the beginning.
And Janet is who?
She's a spiritual counselor, or a director, I think, at Hospice Austin.
Okay. And what do you do with them?
I'm on the Minority Access Board, and I also volunteer with the group. I've got my training from them. I went through a 12-week training program in order to be able to facilitate the group.
How long ago was that?
Oh, about 2.5 years ago.
So you've been doing this for a little while.
For a while,
yeah.
for a while.
Well, say a little bit about the Minority Access Group. What do they do for Hospice Austin?
Well, they're really trying to get more minorities involved and get the information out to the minority community, what hospice is all about.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit. Do minority communities access hospice care?
They do now. At one time, we didn't really know what it was all about, but they do now. And I think that they're getting information through literature. Hospice sends out a magazine, doctor's offices, and also from other people who have used their services and been really well pleased with it. So, and the Christopher House being located in East Austin is great.
Why don't you say where that is?
It's on Martin Luther King Boulevard, and I'm sorry I don't have the address.
Cross Avenue either,
but it's on Martin Luther King Boulevard. I think 2 to 3 blocks before you reach airport, going east.
That's right. Well, for a long time, Austin residents may remember where the Holy Cross Hospital was.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So it's
just
back there where Holy Cross used to be.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's
it's
right.
a good place. So do you find more folks that you know are accessing hospice, and what's their, I guess maybe you'd like to say a little bit about that. People may think that Christopher House is the only place that you go with hospice, that you have to go there. But hospice doesn't do just inpatient, right?
No, they go into the homes. They go into the homes. And people are really pleased with the nurses and things that come into the home, because I've gone in the homes and talked with some of the nurses and things. And so they really, really are pleased. And word of mouth, because they would tell people about their experience with the group. And so
well, what's the difference with hospice coming in and a family just keeping somebody at home or keeping them in the hospital?
Because they really need the expertise that hospice has with the nurses. They need that, and then not only do they help them in the medical part of it, but they help the family to adjust and to help them to sort of start accepting the fact that the loved one may not be with them much longer.
I guess another difference would be that if hospice is involved, and not just Hospice Austin, but there are several in town, but if hospice is involved, then at the time of death, the family doesn't have to call 911. Is that
exactly.
Right.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
That would be a big difference, because if you hit 911,
you got to go through all
lights,
of that.
bells, sirens, fire trucks, police, everything.
But with hospice on the scene, it makes it much easier for the family, you know, because they call the funeral home of choice, and they stay there until the funeral home come, and they do whatever is needed to help the family to make that little small adjustment there.
So instead of a lot of medical activity at the end of life, or when somebody dies, with EMS showing up or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
It's calmer. The family can be around.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's right.
Okay, and there may be even more attention to spiritual needs at that time.
That's true. That's true, because for the most part, hospice will ask if they want a spiritual counselor to come in.
Or their own.
Or their own.
From their own
That's
family.
right.
Sure.
Or their own. And so I think it's wonderful, and more African Americans are using their services.
Okay. Well, how did you think about starting this bereavement group?
Well, when I started to work for King Tears, the manager there, Barry Franklin, wanted to start an aftercare program, which was going to be the first of its kind, especially for minority funeral home. And I don't think there's any other funeral home in town that have it. Might get a call.
No, you will now.
I will. I get a call about it.
What did say what aftercare is? What do you mean by aftercare?
It means that once the funeral is over, we're still going to see about you. We're still going to check on you. We're going to still, if you have needs that we can help you with. In other words, we're not just going to leave you once we bury your loved one.
So it's more like an extension or a bereavement program.
Exactly.
Okay. So they were interested in doing it, and they said, hey, you.
Yeah.
Why you?
Well, I would like to think that it's because of my love for people.
Yeah.
And
you're so hard to talk to. I don't know why.
And also, I tend to lean toward people that are in pain. You know, because those are the people that seem to be forgotten. You know, after the funeral, everybody's gone, and they need that little extra.
So what did you do? How'd you get started?
Well, the first thing was we had like a seminar where we had Janet came in, and we had a lawyer to come in to talk about wills, and then we also had a nurse to come in to talk about taking care of yourself while you're grieving. So that's how we got started.
And did you get people to come out to that?
Yes, yes. They were very interested in it, and it went off really well, and this piqued their interest.
And then the next step was what?
The next step was to start, I think we did it bi-weekly. You know, we started that, and that lasted for a while. And then there was a need to do this every week.
Really?
Yeah, because some people say, can we do this every week?
Wow.
You know, I had a bad day last week, or I had a hard time, or something, and I need this more. So I decided, okay.
Well, you have an unusual name for this group. Could you say what that is?
It comes from Psalms, where it says, weeping might endure for a night, but joy will come in the morning.
And the name of the group is?
Joyful Again.
Joyful Again.
Joyful
right.
Again.
It's a good title.
Yeah. And we did have a lady that looked at it, and she said, I wonder if I will ever be joyful again. And I didn't have an answer for her that night, but the next day I did have. And so when we talked again, and I told her, you will be, but it will be a different kind of joy.
Could you say a little bit about the different kind of joy, or what that's like, what people have told you?
Well, people told me, mainly these couples buried their children. It's a general group, but for the most part, they buried children.
That must be pretty hard.
Oh, it's devastating. And when they would talk about it, they would say, it's the worst pain. You know, worse than mother, father, that is the worst pain to bury your child, because you think your child is going to bury you.
That's right. You don't expect to outlive your children.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah. And so as we talked about it, so many were saying that their priorities changed after they buried a child. They didn't view life the same. Where maybe one young man said, I expected to live 100. He said that wasn't important to him anymore.
Wow.
After he buried his son. You know, things wasn't important anymore.
I think that's true. I mean, my experience has been also that as people go through the dying process and their families go through that, people have said it's like a telescope turning around the other direction, 180 degrees. Things that were huge and important and you thought were so, you just had to drop everything and do them, suddenly shrink down to nothing.
Exactly, that's
and
right.
Things that you sort of took for granted or whatever suddenly are the most important. There was the Bill Moyer special was on last week, and there was one of the doctors who was dying talked just about that, and he talked about, I mean, as strange as it sounds, he said that, you know, he dealt with patients his whole life, but it wasn't until he himself was dying that his perspective really turned around and actually made his life sweeter.
Yeah.
I mean, he talked about death as being the sugar of life, that once you really face that for yourself, it changed your perspective on everyday relationships with people.
Well, that's what this young man was saying, you know, and they have a daughter. They had 2 children. And then there was another lady there that had 2 children, and they could relate because they both had buried sons. Their ages were similar. As they talked about their children, everything about them was similar. Their personalities and their goals and things were all similar. And then one lady said to the other lady, she said, "Do you regret not having more children?" And they both said yes.
Huh. Well, do you find the same people come back week after week?
Yes.
They do?
Yes, they do.
For how long?
Would you believe I have a couple that's been coming for 2 years?
Oh, my goodness.
And
Wow.
they may miss once or twice, but they come back. And one lady said, "I needed to come back and get my shot." You know. And they're very helpful to the others that come in because of their experiences. And
We were talking earlier that maybe the hardest part of doing this is actually going for the first time. Is that right?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
right.
how do our viewers, how do they get the courage to go? There are probably a lot of people watching you here today are thinking, you know, I don't know if I want to do that. That's pretty scary. Do they call you or?
Yes, they call me, or
Okay.
they can call Hospice Austin.
Okay.
A lot of them do call me because I don't mind putting my number out there and saying that they can call me. I remember I was at church one night and a lady was standing outside, and I spoke to her. She said, "I was waiting for you." And she saw the article in the magazine. She said her husband had been dead approaching 2 years. And she said, "I am having a hard time." And I said, "Okay." And she wanted to know, when did we meet? So she was ready for it. You know, it takes time. You have to decide, okay, I need this. And so it takes time to decide that this is what I need to do.
Okay. We're going to take a break here in a minute. I wanted to talk about another resource guide. There's a Central Texas resource guide on end-of-life services that we're going to put the number on the screen where and also the website where you can download this that lists bereavement groups, everything from hospice bereavement groups to legal services that people may want. So we'll have that on the screen here in a minute at the break, and then we'll come back and chat a little more with Ray Franklin. So thank you for being with us, and come back. To Austin Faith Dialogue. The things that you saw on the screen, the St. David's website, you can download advanced directives from that. The phone number that's on there, 397-4212, is my phone number, and be glad to chat with you about any of these issues, or if you want to call and ask for a copy of the resource guide, we'd be happy to send you that. Last Acts is a national website for an organization that has dealt with end-of-life care and is interested in that. Of course, there's the Hospice Austin phone number and the KLRU at pbs.org web address. You can download the resource guide from that as well. So back to you. Are there particular cultural issues that African American grief is involved with? Are there particular rituals or things that are done at the time of death or afterwards?
Probably afterwards, you know. It's so strange that you would ask that. And working at King Tears, the different groups would call and they want to know, well, why are we waiting so long to have the funerals? You know,
right.
because we
What's
are.
up with that?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, we do that. Well, I think it just has been passed down from generations to generations. Saturdays, everybody's off from work, you know, and.
So you normally would do a funeral on a Saturday, you think?
Yeah, everybody wants 11 o'clock on Saturday.
11 o'clock on Saturday.
Everybody
That's the busy time.
11 o'clock on Saturdays. But more and more they're having them earlier. We're having them earlier. And people are wanting to go on and get this over with. And that might sound a little, you know, cruel to say that. But you need to go on and get it over with so you can go on and start getting about the business of grieving and living. Maybe there's family that live out of town, and you've got to call them and see if they're going to be able to get into town, you know, for the funerals. So it's all of those things.
Are there any things immediately following the funeral that people do or that you've seen?
Most things are done prior to the funeral. You know, the people coming over and bringing the food, and the flowers, and coming in and doing whatever is needed for the family to make the.
There's all kinds of community support for
exactly,
people. Yeah.
Community support, your church, or if you're in social organizations or something, all of this is done. Afterwards, there are people that will still come by and check on you. I'm learning to, after the funeral, I'll go and check on somebody, because that's when you really, really need somebody.
It's also when people tend to go away, and people
and
are real
all
busy
alone.
and with you at the funeral, but after that it's like,
the house gets awfully quiet.
Yeah,
the house gets awfully quiet, and the phone calls are not as frequent, you know. But then everybody's, you know, they have their busy lives and they're going on. So after the funeral, this is when I usually come in, and I tell people that's what I'm here for. You know, because I've experienced it.
And you invite people to come to the bereavement group?
I do, but I give them a little time, because when it right after the funeral, they're really not ready for it. They're really not. So I don't go in there the day after the funeral, or, you know. And in my capacity at King Tears, I'm still affiliated with King Tears. I'm a family attendant and I drive the limousine. So this gives me a chance to get to know the family, talk to them, and maybe give them my phone number or card or whatever, and let them know that
you're available.
I'm available.
To talk.
Yes.
Do people bring similar issues? Do they bring? I know the death of a child. Families might bring kind of similar things, but are there any kind of common things that folks out there watching could? We were talking a little bit at the break that those of us who've been through grief and bereavement, you know, I mean, we know from having been that during the time you think, I must be nuts. I must be crazy. I've never felt like this.
Right.
And part of what you can assure them about, and the bereavement group can assure them about it, you're not crazy, you're grieving.
Exactly.
This is normal grief.
It's normal grief.
Yeah.
Because you think that I must be losing it. You know, the forgetfulness.
I was just going to say, you forget things.
You forget things.
Right.
You're irritable, you know.
Little things kind of set you off.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you start having physical symptoms. Like heart palpitations or chest pains and all of those kind of things, you know.
I wouldn't say it's important to check those out.
Right.
Because a lot of people say it's just all in your head.
I know.
You don't know that.
No, you don't.
But sometimes people will start experiencing the same symptoms. That's right, that the person died with.
That's right.
Yeah.
When I'm talking to the people in the group, I suggest that they go and get a physical.
Good idea. Yeah.
Grieving is hard work.
It's hard work,
Yes.
and you're more actually physically at risk.
You are.
Because your stress is depressing your immune system.
Exactly. That's right.
And people people forget to eat as well.
Right.
Isn't that right?
Right.
It's one of the reasons we bring them food.
Right.
Yeah,
you know, you don't sleep well. You know, they complain about not being able to sleep. I know even now, my husband have been dead 8 years in December, and I still have a problem sleeping. 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm up.
You're up, kind of
Yeah,
looking around.
yeah,
Right.
or reading or whatever. So I know that this can be a problem. So I always recommend that they go to their doctor, get a good physical, and then I also recommend they pamper themselves.
Now, there's an
That's the
interesting
one time
concept.
you can be
Yeah.
selfish
Yeah.
and think about me. Pamper yourself. Do things that are going to make you feel good. I shared with one lady, I suggested that she go buy the aromatic candles, put them all around in her bathroom, run the bathtub full of water, turn out the light, put on a tape or whatever kind of music you like.
Yeah, just relax.
Get you one of the pillows and just slide down in the tub and
relax.
relax.
Relax. That's
relax.
really important.
Turn off the phone if you
can.
can.
Turn off the phone.
Turn
Yeah,
off the
don't
phone.
answer the phone.
Don't answer the phone.
Right.
And just really pamper yourself.
Why do you find people find that hard to do?
They do.
Why is that?
Well, because we're not used to really pampering ourselves. We're so busy taking care of others,
Yeah.
especially women.
Yeah.
We're so busy taking care of everybody else that we forget about ourselves. But
Or, the other thing that could happen, I've seen happen, you probably have too, and if it really is a long-term illness, what you're doing, your life is caught up in caretaking.
Exactly.
You are a caretaker.
Exactly.
It becomes your identity. And then to move from that to really beginning to focus on yourself, people feel guilty.
True,
Yeah.
true. And you know what I would like to say to people that have friends that are caregivers,
Oh, this is
ask them
helpful,
how they're doing sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, we tend to forget about the caregiver and we focus on the person that's ill and we want to know how are they doing, but we forget about the person that's caring for them. You know, and sometimes you feel like nobody cares about you. So it's good to ask, how you doing?
What are some of are there some really best practices here, some really good things that you've heard or seen people do for grieving people or for caretakers during the dying process?
For caretakers, it's great to go and give them a break. Maybe sit with the loved one so that they can get out for a little while. If it's no more than just going to the movie, going for a walk, or whatever, just to give them a break so they can get out and do some things.
Kind of spell them.
Yes, yeah.
I've seen fraternal groups do this, and occasionally churches as well, that if the person's in the hospital or even in the home, they'll take the night shift.
Right.
And you go home and get some
Right.
rest. I'm going to stay here with your
Right.
husband or your wife and kind of get through the night with them.
And that's great.
Yeah.
That is great because you need that break. You need to be able to get away. Now, sometimes you might feel guilty about doing it, but you need to
Yeah, I
put
should be able to do everything all the time.
Yeah,
right?
yes. But you need to put the guilt aside and take care of yourself. Because if you don't take care of yourself, how are you going to
And
take care of them?
everybody else. Other stuff like coming over and taking the kids to dinner,
Right,
or doing the laundry, or cutting the grass, or whatever needs to be
Even
done.
cleaning the house.
Cleaning the house. What
You
a
know,
concept.
wash the dishes,
Wash
you-
the
you
dishes.
know, yeah,
Let me take care of
yeah.
the kitchen for you.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly. Or let me fix the evening meal for you, and I'll bring it over in disposable items so you can throw them away.
That's real important
Yes,
to remember too.
yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yes.
It's really helpful stuff. We talked. This came a really silly question, and I don't know where this came from. We were talking earlier about. You think Northern people grieve differently than Southern people? I don't know.
I don't know either. I think grief is grief.
I think grief is.
And
grief,
it hurts.
Yeah, it hurts.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So I don't know. We might have different rituals.
Yeah, that could be.
Yeah. I think that's probably what it is. But
Should people out there be thinking, there's a time frame here. It's been 6 months. I should be getting better, and maybe I'm nuts if I'm not.
I'm learning that is the worst thing to say to someone, that
What's
you
that?
should be getting over this. It has been 6 months. It
Why
has
aren't you
been a
over this yet?
year.
Right.
Why aren't you over this? You know? And I think that does more harm than good because there's no time frame for grief.
Okay.
I don't think.
Yeah, I agree.
There's no time frame for it. And everybody is different. We react to things differently.
Are there some ways that somebody would know when to get help or when to give you a call? Any particularly difficult times or what?
Yes, I recommend that if you are going 2 or 3 days and you're not sleeping,
Or eating.
you're not eating,
Yeah.
and you're listless, like one young lady just retired to the bed, would not get out of the bed. It's time to talk to somebody. It's time to get some help.
This is Austin Faith Dialogue. How is faith helpful here?
I think it's great. And for the most part, most people, it's their faith that gets them through the grieving process. It's knowing that this is not going to last forever. It's knowing that there's a higher power that's going to sustain me and get me through this.
The not lasting forever is important. I was talking to a guy just yesterday whose father had just died recently, like 3 months ago, and I said, there's one thing I can guarantee you about. Can't guarantee almost anything else, but I can guarantee you 1 year from now you'll feel different than you do. I never say better. I don't know better, but you will feel different. And people find that hopeful because they're thinking, if I feel like this for forever, I'm not doing this.
Right. Well, I had a lady to tell me that. She said, if this is the way it's going to be, I don't want it. I don't want any parts of it.
Right.
Yeah. But see, that's the good part about having, I mentioned to you about the couple that have been coming 2 years. Well, I have another lady that's been there like 3 months. So this couple was able to tell her, we were where
you are now.
Yes,
right? Yeah.
One day you're going to be here. So that's great to have that there, and that gives them hope.
And you find the group welcoming new people coming
very
in.
much so.
They're very welcoming.
Yes,
and so
yes,
this is an okay group to come to. Nobody's going to force you to say or do anything. You sit there and just sit there and cry for an hour.
Whatever. If they feel like crying, whatever, laughing. We have a lot of humor in the group. If you were standing outside the door, but we do, we do.
Truly amazing.
We do. If you were standing outside the door, you would not know that this is a grief group.
That's great.
Because
what's people doing in there? They're grieving. Oh, really?
Yeah. I told someone we solve all the world's problems in our grief group.
That's great. How long? How long does the group last each time? An hour?
We start at 6, 7:30, but if it goes further, that's fine.
Okay.
That's fine.
And this is weekly?
Weekly.
And where do you meet?
At James Baptist Church, 1812 E.M. Franklin Avenue, the corner of Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard.
Okay, and this is every week?
Every week.
And at 6 p.m.?
6 p.m.
Okay. Well, this has been very helpful. You're there.
I'm there.
Well, we need to wind down here. Are there any closing words of comfort you can offer? You might say the scripture passage again. That's really good.
It comes from Psalms 30, and it's the latter part of that verse, 5b, where it says, "Weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning."
Joy comes in the morning.
Yeah, it's not going to always be night in your life.
That can be very hopeful and very, very loving, comforting thing to say to people.
Yes.
Well, Ray, thank you for joining us today on Austin Faith Dialogue. It's been a real pleasure to have you here.
Oh, Chuck, thank you for having me here.
We'll have to have you back and talk more about this. Okay. And thank you for joining us on Austin Faith Dialogue. We hope you'll come back and be with us again next week.